Welcome to Get Real. We're so excited that you're joining us today for another engaging conversation with independent financial advisors and the industry leaders who support them. Today, our special guest is Len Ward, founder and president of Commexis, which focuses on maximizing your digital marketing dollars by simplifying the ROI process for your marketing efforts. Len, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
We are so happy that you're here, and we are excited about our conversation with you today. When Genevieve and I first met you and spoke with you and learned about Commexis, we thought that your process was just amazing.
Yes.
And that you could bring so much value to so many organizations. So when you started your career as a digital marketing expert, what were you doing, and how did the Commexis dream come about?
So, yeah, I entered the world kind of like what a lot of the viewers are. I was on the financial side of things. I started way back when we were called a stockbroker at Morgan Stanley. I actually started right when the merger was happening between Morgan Stanley and Dean Witter. Then I was lucky enough from there to kind of morph over to Credit Suisse First Boston. So I went through the whole training program. And I was able to kind of cut my teeth on a lot of different things. And so I probably spent the better part of about 6 years vice president of equity sales over there. I would say about a couple years after the .com meltdown, I actually found myself, the days of Wall Street were coming to an end. So I was part of an e-com startup, and that's kind of how I started looking at digital marketing. We hired a digital marketing agency to do some work for us. We realized probably about 2-3 months in that they really weren't doing their job, what we thought they weren't doing their job. So I kind of took a step back. I said, all right, why don't you let me teach myself everything I can about digital marketing, see if I can help out with this e-com company. I did
Ambitious.
that. Then we kind of started pushing that. And, so the company started growing. And then, of course, something else happened, which was the economic meltdown of 08, 09. So there I found myself saying, okay, I'm probably not going to go back to Wall Street. E-com right now, you have to really, know what you're doing. To kind of work there. And I said, okay, I've learned these skills as being a digital marketer. So from investment banker to a digital marketer, I said, let me see what I can do. So I kind of hustled. I put some ads on Craigslist. I actually took an ad out in the paper, if you can believe that, years ago. And I tried to target small businesses in which I can maybe apply this skill I learned. And literally, I tell people all the time, it kind of grew. It took off. I feel like one day I walked into an office. I was a freelancer because I had a small office to start. I left, came back in the next morning, and there's 20 people looking at me working for me. It literally happened that fast. So that's kind of how Commexis became a full-service digital agency from the beginning to where we are now.
That's really amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible, to do that. I'm sure it felt like it was overnight, right? And to take such a big switch in your career. And so as you know, Len, our audience, the folks that we speak to are independent financial advisors. And when it comes to digital marketing, that's probably not a topic that many of them are very familiar with, I would imagine. And obviously it's an important part of what they need to do to get their message to the people they're trying to reach. So,
Especially today.
Yes.
The whole landscape's changed.
Exactly. So break down for us, in simple terms so that we can understand, what is Commexis's process when you're meeting with a financial advisor? How do you show them that it's a good investment for their firm?
That's a good question. So how we arrived at the process was working with financial advisors, other companies, and doing digital marketing and doing the standard stuff, getting them on Google, getting them on Facebook, and making sure they had a digital footprint, and that they were doing what's called, in parts, digital transformation over to that. So as we were doing that, one of the complaints that was coming in, not only from our clients, but other agencies that we spoke with, their clients, was, I can't really see a return on investment. I don't know what a return on investment. And for a financial advisor, who their entire job is to basically show a return on investment, this is something that, if we were going to market a product to a financial advisor, we had to be able to truly show a return on investment. So what I did, again, is I took a step back and I said, okay, let me see if I can kind of bridge what I learned being in the investment banking world, being in the stockbroker world, also mixing in being a business owner, and then trying to pull that together with digital marketing. If I could try to identify a process that would legitimately show a real return on investment from marketing and sales dollars that you could actually lay on top of your actual profit and loss sheet and say, okay, I now see a return on investment. So we invented what's called the Commexis process, and it's actually a reporting process with an online dashboard that's supported with a marketing decision process, where it has basically 5 fundamentals that we start out with a financial advisor. We start out with a company, and we basically say, okay, what is your revenue goal? And then we say, next up, we take a look at your pipeline. What is your pipeline deficiencies? Like, what are the issues that's holding you from your revenue goal? Then we take a look at the marketing, which is the buyer's journey. We identify what type of marketing we need to address those deficiencies in the funnel. And then we come to the all important part of how much is that going to cost you? And then the 5th and final part, when we have all of that put together, is, okay, now that we have that, what is the rate of return that you have, predicated on everything that you've invested? And is the funnel moving along? And are you getting closer to your revenue goals? And when you put it in front of somebody in a reporting dashboard, it's funny because it really speaks the language of a financial advisor, speaks the language of a business owner. It's a very easy dashboard they can look at and literally see the dollar going in here and it's coming out there. So that's kind of the process in a simplified fashion.
It's just buttoned up and laid right out so that a financial advisor can really just, okay, I see that.
Right.
I see it.
Instead of looking at all the metrics separately, right?
Yeah.
That the power of that dashboard to just see it all in front of you.
Yeah, you know what it eliminates? It eliminates when you have conversations with people and they kind of tell you about clicks and impressions and
Yes.
okay, look at how many likes we got. Look, that stuff's good, but it is vanity metrics. And at the end of the day, while it does, it adds up a little bit on the financial basis. At the end of the day, you can't tie finances to how many likes you got on Facebook or how many clicks you got on pay-per-click. There's a financial equation you have to go through to get to that. This process kind of pushes the vanity metrics aside, although we tip our cap to it, and it gets financial advisors to really focus exactly on what they need to focus on to make better investment decisions.
Right. So, obviously, I think what happened in 2020 with COVID and still going on, I think that threw advisors for a loop, right? All of a sudden you have this industry that's so used to being face-to-face with people, whether it's their clients or prospects, people that are referred to them, and obviously they had to change how they approached their business. So do you think that digital marketing is really now going to become the new powerhouse, or has it always been there but just sort of unseen as a powerhouse for this industry moving forward?
I think it's slowly but surely become the powerhouse over the last 3 or 4 years. I think COVID now has people really understanding just how powerful the mediums of Google and Facebook are, and that along with a digital buyer's journey or an individual's buyer's journey where they may need to have 10 or 15 touches before they ultimately settle on the right financial advisor, even if they are referred to you by a family member, they are still going to go online and check you out, maybe check out what you're doing on social and read some things you're writing. What COVID has done, maybe we would have kind of gone another 3-4 years of where you could have done some really mixed in a lot more traditional things. What COVID has done is now hyperspaced us to the point of your entire strategy of how you're doing sales and marketing simply must start with digital marketing. The very first question I get about that is, well, how can you prove that? And here's the math, or here's the language that everyone watching this will understand. Take a look at Google's stock price. Take a look at Facebook's stock price. They are 90% driven by ad dollars, $239 billion in 2020 alone last year, and it's only going to go up from there. Those stock prices are growing because mutual fund managers clearly see the growth in digital ad dollars. And then when you think about nearly 50% of small businesses or medium-sized businesses have not even entered the fray yet, or have not entered the fray in which they should be, in which there's a larger amount of money you should be investing in there, it's a scary world if you don't embrace it now. If you try to jump in about a year or two and say, hey, I want to dip my toe in, there's no dipping your toe in this space anymore. You got to come in, and you got to come in with a plan or a process to be ready for it.
Right.
I think you also raise an interesting point. What we've learned is from the digital marketing space is that the next generation coming up who are going to be the clients where that wealth transfer is going to be happening, they're looking at your online presence.
Yeah.
If you don't have a website, if you don't have a this, if you don't have a that, next they're going to the next offering, whether it is financial services, whether it's your accountant, your attorney, whatever. That 25 to 45-year-old is really looking there first. They might get that recommendation from someone at the holiday dinner table, but they're absolutely going to be going on and looking at the digital marketing footprint. And if there's not anything there that speaks to them, they're moving on.
Yeah.
They're moving on. We know
I
that.
agree.
So
That's kind of like the greater thing of that is that, a lot of people don't know the true definition of digital transformation. There's a lot of definitions to it, a lot of components of digital transformation. But one of the major things is how are you communicating with clients, prospective clients from a digital perspective? And what type of investments do you have to do? And that does come with your website, a live chat button, certain types of advertising. Obviously, compliance has to be involved when you are discussing things with clients of some nature. But that is part of the digital transformation. You put that on top of digital marketing, it'll make your head spin. So, but that's kind of where we are right now.
and compliance, you raise a great point about that. They've got to change. They've got to come into this area so that they can meet the advisor's needs as things are changing. And we've all experienced, we've been in the industry for a long time, and so they're sometimes a little slow to get on board, but they've really got to look at these things because this is how people are building their business. It's a new way. So they've got to get on board as well.
Agreed.
You talk about that every business owner needs to identify their customer acquisition cost. Why is that important? And how does that influence the work that you do with your clients?
So one of the biggest reasons that people cannot identify a return on investment in sales and marketing, or more importantly, digital marketing, is that you have nothing to weigh it against. You are basically saying, okay, I only see $1,000 coming out, and I invested, this much money. And the customer acquisition cost, what that does is it takes everything into one ball and shows you what you've invested. Too many times you'll say, okay, well, here's what I spent on Google and I got this out. And that's conversions happen in the ecosystem, is something I talk about a little later. But customer acquisition cost is, what did that dinner cost you? What did that direct mailer cost you? What did you do on Facebook? How much time did you spend with a prospective client, and what do you have an hourly rate in which you charge, if that's even tangible? But every single thing possible to acquire a new customer, to get in your book, you have to account for all of that. Why it's so important that you have to understand that is, number one, yes, it's because you weigh all of that as a total versus what you have out. And that'll give you your return on investment for the year. And obviously the two parts of customer acquisition cost are sales and marketing. So why it's so critical to understand that is like what I just said, but the most important part to come out of there comes back to the digital marketing space. You have to understand that your investment in your customer acquisition costs is predicated on the deficiencies in your funnel. The deficiencies in your funnel are addressed by how you're going to invest in your digital marketing campaign. So in other words, it's how much is it going to cost me to be on Google? How much is it going to cost me to be on Facebook? You put those numbers in your customer acquisition cost, and then you build around it. Before, you would build around and say, I'm going to do a brochure, I'm going to do a dinner, I'm going to do this. Oh, and here's how much I have left for digital marketing. It doesn't work that way anymore.
No.
You got to start with the digital marketing investment predicated on funnel deficiencies and then build around it. So once you understand that science and you know that number, now you have the number in which you can drop on a weight and say, here's where I am from an ROI perspective.
Fascinating, all of the components that come into play there, and so many more that you probably didn't mention. And we'll come back in a minute or two to continue our conversation with Len Ward of Commexis. Stay tuned.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Boardwalks built for fun. Legendary rock and roll clubs.
This is how we do it. Hippity hop.
Casinos by the ocean.
Hippity hop.
Now that's New Jersey. 130 miles of beautiful beaches. Solid rock. And everything in between.
Look in the window.
Now that's New Jersey.
Welcome back. We're having a great conversation with Len Ward from Commexis. Len, before the break, we were talking about the customer acquisition cost and all the components of that. I liken it to, as well as, when you put the key in the door every morning, what is that costing you? Mm-hmm. And it's every person that's in your office that's touching something that's presenting to the client or creating a marketing piece or doing anything. And it's very detailed. And when you spend that time to really figure that out, you're much better for it. And you know exactly where your playing field is. Mm-hmm. So a question about campaigns that go underfunded. What happens?
They fail. The premise we have on one of the apps that we have there's 5 reporting metrics we lean on, but then we actually have there's 9 financial principles that we call for the modern marketing world. And I won't get into too much depth. Number 2 is you can't out-optimize a bad spend. And mm-hmm. I think there was, for so many years, you could try to figure out a way in which to work SEO or game the system, or is there something I can do? Is there a hack we can do? Let's call it the way it is. That kind of worked. But as Google and Facebook grew, as shareholders demanded more, and as more users were not only flocking to the platforms, but then spending more time on the platforms, Google and Facebook's business model is predicated now where you have to spend, again, to address the funnel deficiencies, you have to spend to get that return on investment. And for the first time in history, the ad platforms are now controlling your customer acquisition cost, which I'll take it a step further. For the first time in history, your customer acquisition cost is now controlling your operating expenses. So your operating expenses cannot control what's happening with your ad budget. Those days are gone. So you really have to look at how important that customer acquisition cost is and what's happening with your operating expenses and make sure you have enough money to hit your revenue goals. If you can't, then obviously you have to readjust your revenue goals. But yes, trying to walk in with a campaign saying, hey, let me give $1,000 and try to see where this works. That's not a strategy. You're taking a guess. So underfunded campaigns right now, unless there's something extraordinary that you've done, something that catches on that's viral, 99% chance it's going to fail. It's the same way as underfunding your retirement. If you underfund your retirement, you will be at 65 years old and not have enough money to retire.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that overall there's a slow acceptance of that mindset going into a digital marketing strategy, or perhaps maybe that's why folks really don't invest too heavily in it, because they don't know what the exact return is going to be right off the bat. They're thinking, how much do I need to dump into this to get anything meaningful back? I mean, what's a barrier, or is there still a barrier for folks?
You mean for barrier for actually saying, okay, for me to actually commit and invest and so forth?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think people who aren't doing any type of digital marketing or haven't embraced any sort of digital transformation that might kind of looks into the world of digital marketing, they're losing market share. They're clearly saying we're not getting the leads we used to get. And I think with COVID, if you didn't embrace something fast with digital, you're probably, well, let's call it the way it is. We all probably had a pretty rough 2020, unless you were certain businesses that perform well. And I think right there, the COVID was probably the watershed mark, or watershed moment, I should say, where everybody said, we need to do something within digital marketing. We just don't know what to do. We have found that financial advisors and other companies are looking for guidance more so than ever as to what to invest, because they don't want to just invest money to lose it. So sure. I think the conversation is now shifted over, well, we'll give it a shot to, well, how much should I really invest to make this work, which is a good conversation to have.
Right. And it speaks to, everyone works with a specific niche, right? Mm-hmm. If you're working with more corporate executives, right, you have to do programs that are tailored or meet them where they hopefully are on the internet. So everyone will have that different budget. It makes sense to say, okay, well, let's see what I can get with X number of dollars. And obviously there are minimums, right, to make it effective.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes all the way back to the beginning when I said you take a look at a revenue goal or a number you need to operate at this year to be profitable, and then take a look at those funnels. Okay, what part of the digital marketing journey can we address with the funnel deficiencies? You may be a financial advisor where all your referrals are coming from somebody and you don't really need to embrace a massive digital campaign. But you do everything on what you need to invest digital marketing is 100% dependent on what that sales funnel looks like. And that's kind of how you arrive at a budget.
When you're engaging with a financial advisor, what are the first couple of things that you're going to talk to them about in terms of setting up their digital marketing strategy? They're walking in, obviously you're going through all the metrics, but how does an advisor look at what they're doing today to think about whether or not this is something for them?
We open up the conversation with financial advisors the exact same way they open up the financial conversation that they have with prospective people. And that is, what is your goal? And it's not a partial goal. It's not a somewhat goal. It's are you looking to be retired down in South Carolina and you want to, an XYZ? Here's how much money it's going to cost. We come in and say, is there a financial goal of which you're looking to hit? Is there amount of people that you're trying to get into your book? What is the actual goal that you're going for? So when we work with financial advisors, we would hope that they would have some sort of goal. We prefer financial. And what we also like to know is, come to the table with whatever you've done in the past. We'd like to have that. We'd like to know, what your numbers were in 2019. We'll even go pre-COVID. And what did you do to get to those numbers? Like, what was it? We'd like to kind of reverse engineer what you did from a market perspective and establish the ROI for 2019. And then if you're going to we'll kind of call 2020 a year we'll move away. But for 2021, what is your goal? What are you looking to do? And then I would say, okay, for you to get there, it's going to take this kind of investment. Because if you look at the investment you put in 19, it gave you that. You're going to need to do this in 2021 to get to where you are. And if they can't do that, then obviously we take a step back and reevaluate their goals. But that's kind of how we approach it with a financial advisor.
So let's take us through your onboarding process, right? I'm a financial advisor. I've said, okay, great, that makes sense to me. I want to implement this for my business. What does the onboarding process look for someone? Because obviously there are a lot of unknowns for someone that's never done this for their firm. So what does it look like when they onboard with you?
And if I could interject before you answer that, Len, marketing is scary for advisors.
Yeah.
It's very scary. They'll talk to you till the cows come home about investments and process, but marketing is scary.
Good. Well,
Yeah.
it's very different from what they do on a daily basis, right? It's creative and not exactly always quantifiable when you look at return of investment. But anyway.
Now it is with Len.
True.
So the onboarding process is actually, we make it fairly simple. We actually send out it's heavy in finance. So we always lead with finance. Before we get anywhere, we want to know the financials. We want to know the arsenal we have that you currently have in which to get to our ultimate goal. So there's a series of financial questions we ask you. We'd like to understand about your gross margins. We'd like to understand the investment in your customer acquisition costs. So once we get these questions and have a discovery session, we actually build their current customer acquisition cost, and we review the entire financial model with them. We actually put our dashboard in front of them and say, here's where you were in 2019. So after they ask the questions, they take a look at the board. We then come over, and then we have a second session, which is called the strategy session. We say, okay, this is where you want to get to. And then we lay down in front of them and say, these are how your prospective clients are, which is called the buyer's journey map. And we go through the buyer's journey map step by step. You're going after Mary. She's 55 years old. She's making XYZ dollars a year, and she's the perfect kind of person you want in your book. Mary lives on Facebook. Mary lives on LinkedIn, and here's how we're going to market to her. And we basically show them all the way. And then the goal after that, when we're done, is we wrap up the strategy session and say, this is what the investment's going to be to get to your dollar amount. And it's a fairly straightforward process. And then after they work with us, what we do is we have monthly meetings or quarterly meetings, and we really home in and focus on the numbers. And if they want to dip into the vanity metrics, our team at any time can jump in and do that as well.
And you can stop the engagement at that point, right? You come in and you define the map, essentially. You can also deliver on that strategy, or an advisor is free to engage with another organization. Is that correct?
Absolutely, yeah. So our reporting dashboard, so One of the more popular products we have is the reporting dashboard and consulting. We do the marketing decision consulting with them. So we can work with other agencies, and we do it. We can work with your internal marketing team. And all we're here to do is just to show the financial rate of return. We're not here to judge the creative. We're not here to judge the strategy. Our job is to say, this is the investment you need. These are the platforms you have to be on, and this is the rate of return you have to be at to make sure that you're profitable. How your agency or marketing individual, or if you would decide to retain our agency, which is another side of our company, the strategies and the creative within there, that's up to your team. We just give you the roadmap to your goal. So when you are listening to your agency or you're having a conversation with your internal marketing team, the stuff's not flying over your head. Impressions and metrics and things like that. You are looking at this in dollars and cents. And when your agency understands, or internal marketing team, agents, or where they understand that, then you guys have finally met at a common ground, and it's a language everybody understands, and it gets everybody on the same page. Here's my customer allocation cost. This is what we have to do to get to the rate of return, and the conversation becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, you're transforming the industry and the business from a marketing perspective. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Who's your ideal client? What's that advisor look like? Do they need to, in order to engage with you, should they have X number of people, assets under management? Is there somebody that is the ideal client for you?
The ideal client for us is the client that's looking to break through, like legitimately trying to break through. We love when there are teams like yourself working with financial advisors where they have the operating expenses tight. They have consultants or business coaches who's really helping them get to where they need to be, but they're ready to make that investment in sales and marketing, digital marketing. They're ready to invest the dollars, and they're ready to engage to make this really get done. Maybe they've tested it in the past, they've tried it in the past, they kind of think it works, but they're the ones who are like, all right, I'm trying to go from 5 million in a book of business to 25 million in a book of business, or I'm just guessing numbers right now, and they're looking to really kind of push through. They're the type of clients that we're looking for. I think the clients that are just starting out, maybe building their book and so forth, this process may be a little not over their head, but maybe a little too grand for them.
Premature.
I think so. The other type of person to be really good is somebody that's been running their business for a few years. They understand all the metrics on how to run a business. And when they look at this process and look at a reporting dashboard, it speaks to them right away. And historically, that's somebody that's, they've been around for a little while.
Right. All right, Len, we have 30 seconds. Tell us what are one or two things someone needs to do before they decide to engage with your firm. What do I need to come to the table with?
Set a goal. Make sure you absolutely set a goal. And the most important thing I tell everybody in the world, innovation will change the game. Innovation will change you. Show up to the table with any marketing team or advisor with a value proposition or a purple cow. Seth Godin, if you don't know the book, read it. It's great. Set a goal and have a value proposition, because if not, all you're doing is selling the exact same product to somebody else, and you're now at the race to the bottom on who's going to charge less commission dollars or whatever your rates may be. So it's essential that you have those two things ready to go when you are ready to take that next step.
Great advice. Thank you so much for joining us today, Len. It was a pleasure. To our audience, we hope that you have found today's episode informative, and hopefully you can take a couple of things for your firm. And please, if you're interested in a digital marketing strategy, keep Commexis in mind. Until next time,